If you don't want to listen to what I have to say, it is what it is. But I'm just saying it's going to be great. What you just heard were two different thought-terminating cliches, and if that interests you, you should continue listening. I myself wasn't sure what thought-terminating cliches were when I first started researching, but through that research, I now understand what it is, and I find them very interesting. Thought-terminating cliches are used by governments and people in high power to brainwash their citizens and manipulate them into doing what they want. They take away the power of the people and their freedom of speech because they stop debate and prevent the conversations that are important from being had. Although they are negative, there are some positives to them if they're not used specifically for manipulation. But along the lines of manipulation, they are used to brainwash citizens into doing exactly what the government wants. First, I'm going to start with how governments use them. They're used by governments to end debate and conversations. They're the end of a sentence or a quote that they say that stops anyone from having the ability to argue what they're saying. Robert Lifton was the first person to identify these cliches, and he wrote about them in 1989. His quote says that the demand that character and identity be reshaped not in the accordance with one's special nature or potential, but rather to fit the rigid contours of the doctrinal mold. Basically, what he's saying is it takes away the person's ability to become themselves or the person that they want to be, and instead makes them turn into people that the government or the people in power who are saying these cliches into that kind of mold. There are some examples of these that help explain why governments are able to use them to manipulate people. The first one is freedom is not free. It's used by people to say that the freedoms that we have are not free. We can't take them for granted. And it's used as a way to promote war and going to war. The next one is this isn't new. Similar to freedom is not free, it's saying that these bad things, scandals, stuff like that are used, they aren't new. They're not something that we haven't seen before. Another one is you'll understand at my age. This is used by older people who think that their age gives them more power or makes them wiser than the younger generation. So younger people don't have the power to argue with them because they're not the same age. And finally, there is a quote by Adolf Hitler, and it's saying, the victor is never asked if they told the truth. And this is saying that, clearly it's saying that if he won, that no one would wonder if the truth, if what he was saying was true. Next, we're going to talk about the positives. I don't think there's a lot of positives to this, in my opinion, but I found some. So first, it's consoling curiosity. Everybody is curious about things, especially like a higher power, a god, things that aren't able to be easily explained. So a thought-terminating cliche that can be used for this is that the Lord works in mysterious ways. This one can be used to manipulate, but for the most part, people use it as a way to explain things that can't normally be explained. Next is a statement that is repeated to relieve, The definition is a statement that is repeated to relieve tension out of a stressful situation and to avoid consideration of a subject. So this second definition is a less manipulative version of it, but rather a way for people to avoid those stressful situations. An example of this would be a hard argument, something that you'll never win. Both sides are very stuck in what they're saying, and no one's ever going to find the end to the situation. So in order to finish the conversation, it's easy to just use one of these thought-terminating cliches to show that you're done, that's the end of the conversation. The next point I'm going to make is the brainwashing that can be used with thought-terminating cliches. The book that, Robert Lifton wrote is about the manipulation and brainwashing of China. This also can be seen in Hitler, Stalin, Communist China, and any other communists or dictators. they're used in speeches and propaganda to convince the people of what they want to see. A really good example of this is George Orwell's book Animal Farm. So it's an allusion to Stalin's reign and his form of government and how he ruled. The first quote that is a thought-terminating cliche is 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. This is repeated throughout the book to brainwash the animals into thinking that all men are bad and that all animals are good. Next is all men are enemies, all animals are comrades. Similar to 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. It's saying that all animals are good, all men are bad, no matter what the person did and no matter what the animal did. You must always think that the animals are good and the men are bad. And finally, remember comrades. Your resolution must never falter. No agreement must lead you astray. And so this one is debatable if it's a thought-terminating cliche, but I interpret it as that. So I decided to keep it in. And this is definitely ending an argument, saying that no matter what someone is saying, you cannot argue it. You must follow blindly to what he's saying. So this book is really good at showing thought-terminating cliches because George Orwell didn't like metaphors and preferred to use other forms of writing techniques to show his, to prove his point. Finally, I want to review what we said. So leaders take advantage of their people. They use these cliches to prove their point, to end the conversations, and to not allow the debate of subjects, especially important ones such as war, age, the events going on in the world. The positives can be explaining the unexplainable, such as religion and a higher power, as well as ending fights that don't have a clear end but aren't important, such as the government and other types of really important subjects. And finally, the brainwashing can be used when these terms are used over and over again and used to the point that people must believe it and they must fit that mold or else they'll be turned against, like in Animal Farm. If you remember, my first 2 sentences were thought-terminating cliches. I said, if you don't listen to this, it is what it is. But what I'm saying is going to be great. These, in my opinion, would make you feel like I was being rude or mean and making you have to listen to this. And that was my point. I wanted you to feel what people could feel like when using these cliches. I really hope you learned something, but if not, it is what it is.